Hey there, folks, and welcome out to the Single Player Podcast. I'm your one and only host, I'm 16-bit, and I got a good show for this week because we're going to be talking about the return of SunSoft, Embracer Group acquires more companies, and Microsoft and Sony battle in Brazil, plus more. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and I'll be with you in a bit. Alright folks, and we're back, and now it's time to start the show with my favorite segment, your favorite segment, everyone in the world's favorite segment. It's time for the Gaming Forecast. So let's see what's coming out between the week of August 28th to September 3rd. Okay, on August 30th, you have 9 games coming out. Commandos 3 HD Remaster for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed for Windows, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. Dusk Diver 2 making its Western debut on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and 5. F1 Manager 2022 for Windows, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X. Immortality for Windows, Mac, Xbox Series X, iOS, and Android. Inscription for PlayStation 4 and 5. Prinny presents NES Classics Volume 3, making its North American debut on Windows and Nintendo Switch. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X. And Tinykin for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X. Then on the 31st, you have 3 games coming out. Phantasy Star Online 2 and its new Genesis expansion, making its Western debut on PlayStation 4, Scathe for Windows, and Shin-Chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, the Endless 7-Day Journey for Windows. Then on September 1st, you have 5 games coming out. Anno Mutation M for Nintendo Switch, Chenso Club for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, Gerda, A Flame in Winter for Windows and Nintendo Switch, Made in Abyss, Binary Star Falling into Darkness, releasing exclusively in Japan for Windows, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation 4, and Ooblets for Windows, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One. Then on September 2nd, you have 6 games coming out. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X. The Last of Us Part 1 for PlayStation 5, Lego Brawls for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series X, Lunistis for Windows and Nintendo Switch, Made in Abyss, Binary Star Falling into Darkness, making its Western debut on Windows and Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Prinny presents NES Classics Volume 3, making its European debut on Windows and Nintendo Switch. And that was your gaming forecast. Quite a lot of stuff coming out. Personally, I'm interested in the NES Classics Volume 3 and TMNT, the Cowabunga Collection, because damn, that collection is just absolutely massive. Tons and tons of games in that one. But anyway, let me know what you're interested in, and remember that these dates are subject to change, that some games may be added to the list, and some games may be moved off to another date. Also, if you liked any of the music that will be playing in this week's episode, just remember it is in the description. There's always links and, of course, credits. So anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our first topic. Alright, so for our first story, it seems we have a classic Japanese game studio is making its official comeback. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am, of course, talking about SunSoft. Now, technically, SunSoft never went away, but around, I don't know, maybe the mid-2000s, 2010s, they started slowing down production, game development. I think the last time I ever bought a game from them was Blaster Master Overdrive. And that was like on the Wii. It was sometime around 2010 or so. It's actually a pretty good game, but unfortunately, if you didn't download it before the Wii Shop channel shut down, then you won't be able to play it. But anyway, with that being said, they had a recent live stream where they announced a whole bunch of upcoming games. And first and foremost, they announced Icky Unite, which, according to their Steam page, is basically a roguelike co-op game with up to 16 players. And it's actually a modern take on an old arcade game that SunSoft had developed in the mid-'80s called Icky, where you played two poor peasant farmers basically rioting and overthrowing a feudal lord. So if you have any interest, you can go and right now check it out on Steam. They are opening it up for playtesters, so you can go on there and request to join the playtest. But anyway, of course, they had two other games they announced. First off, they also had Gimmick Special Edition will be coming to PC on Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Now, if you don't know what Gimmick is, it's a puzzle platformer that came out on the Famicom sometime in the early 90s. And unfortunately, it never came over to the US. They actually thought about bringing it over, but they thought the characters were too cute and weird to be commercially successful here, so they decided not to bring it over, and it's a damn shame. I played it many years ago on an emulator, and I thought it was a pretty fun game, so I'm glad to see that it's actually being brought over officially, and it'll be coming out sometime later this winter on Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. But it's not the only game. They also announced that Euphoria the Saga is also coming over to modern platforms as well. And of course, that's going to be coming out sometime in 2023. And that's more of a Metroidvania type game. It's another fun one. That one eventually, it didn't come over to the US when it first came out. In fact, I think it only came out in like Europe, outside of Japan. But it did come over to the US, I think, on like the Wii Virtual Console. I remember seeing it, but I unfortunately never played it until a couple of years later when it was on an emulator. So, yeah, glad to see that that's coming back. Glad to see SunSoft is coming back. Man, again, that's a name that, if you've ever played games on the NES, you've definitely played some of their stuff. Batman on the NES is probably one of the best movie games that they ever made. Of course, also Blaster Master. Great stuff. But anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next topic. Alright, so a couple of weeks ago, Nintendo held the Kirby 30th Anniversary Music Festival. And apparently, during the concert, they officially announced that Kirby of the Stars, better known in the US as Kirby Right Back At Ya, and the set will come out later this year and include all 100 episodes completely remastered in HD. Now, the sad news is that this is exclusive to Japan. Yeah, unfortunately, you're not going to get that kickin' theme song on Blu-ray, but still, I'm glad to see that it's at least getting another re-release. That series, let me tell you, the last time that anime got any sort of release on home video was back in 2008. And that's not even counting, or at least 2010 actually. And that's not even counting the Dream Collection, which only included like 3 episodes from the series. So I'm glad to see it's actually getting a re-release, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's going to come out in the US anytime soon. Though I am hoping that some distribution company over here kind of, fixes that and actually kind of gets the rights to bring it over here to the US. But still, I'm glad to see that it's at least getting some sort of re-release. Hey, if it doesn't come over here to North America, at least there's always piracy. I'm just kidding, of course, for legal reasons. But anyway, guys, I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
It's here. Batman, the video game. From SunSoft. For the Nintendo Entertainment System. Let the battle begin.
All right, folks, and we're back. And first up on our next round of stories, we have some major news about an acquisition, this time from Embracer Group. I've talked about them in the past, primarily when they purchased Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and such. Well, it seems that they've made even more purchases, and it's a lot. First off, they bought out Limited Run Games, who makes a lot of... they make physical copies of games that were either digital or long out of print classic games. Also, Singtrix, which is the company behind the tech used in the Guitar Hero and Rock Band series. Tuxedo Labs, primarily known for developing Teardown. Tripwire Interactive, who is the developer of Killing Floor and Maneater. Tatsujin, which is actually Embracer's first Japanese studio, which worked on classic toppling games such as Truxton, Snow Brothers, and Flying Shark. Bitwave Games, a Swedish studio that specializes in retro games. Geotech, a European gaming accessory brand with over 2 decades of history, and an undisclosed study purchase that is said to be the 3rd or 4th largest of the total purchases. Now, of course, there is one more, but it's not gaming related. Well, it's tangentially related to gaming because it's part of it. But it seems that Embracer has also purchased Middleearth Enterprises. Now, if you don't know what that is, you could probably guess just from the name, but they own the IP rights to The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Not the actual stories themselves, but rather the movie rights, movie stage, television, video games rights, all that stuff. They own it. Okay? They are now owned by Embracer Group. Now, that doesn't mean that they actually own the books, because technically the books are all owned by the Tolkien estate, but still, it's still a massive thing, the fact that they own all of the stuff related to The Lord of the Rings. That means, like I said, the film rights, the film rights, the video games, board games, merchandise, stage products, anything you can think of. Goddamn, Embracer is really they're rising to the top as one of the largest publishers, aren't they? I mean, my God, they've been buying out as much studios and companies as humanly possible. And who knows? You know, maybe who knows? Maybe we'll get some interesting things out of it. I'm kind of hoping that this will actually fix some of limited runs issues, because as most of you probably know, I've been buying limited run games for a long time, couple of years right now. I actually have a lot of their collector's editions and such, because I like them. They put out some pretty good stuff, but the problem is that a lot of their products are behind schedule. Stuff that was, I think it was primarily because of COVID. COVID fucked up a lot of things for them. So I'm kind of hoping that this will actually kind of fix some of those issues that they've been having. But anyway, goddamn, Embracer, they're really rising to the top. Who knows? Maybe they'll dethrone. Well, obviously they're going to dethrone Activision Blizzard when Microsoft buys them back. But who knows? Maybe they'll dethrone EA sometime, somewhere in the future. Who knows? Anyway, with that being said, let's move on to our next story. Alright, and next up, we got to talk about the Spiderman Flag Mod controversy. Oh boy, so I'm sure many of you already know about this. I was going to talk about this last week, but then I kind of realized, wait a minute, I'd be talking about this and the Bridget thing in one episode, and I'm like, probably not a good idea. So I decided to push it back to, of course, this week. Now, for those who aren't probably familiar with it, recently Spider-Man Remastered came out on Steam, and so far it's actually developed a modding scene so far. And it appears that someone decided to upload a mod to Nexus Mods that changed all of the LGBT flags in the game to United States flags. And I'm pretty sure you could tell that caused a massive controversy. People were flipping out about this. Now, contrary to what others believe, because some people actually were claiming that it completely removed LGBT flags from the game, it doesn't really do that. What the mod does is change the game's region to the Middle East so that that automatically turns every flag into the American flag, which isn't all that surprising. You know, it's kind of like whenever June hits and like you have all these major publishers that switch over all of their accounts, you know, switch over to like the rainbow logo, except for like the Middle Eastern, Turkish, and Russian accounts. Like, they don't do that. It's obviously not surprising. But here's the thing. I'm going to be quite frank, and some people are not going to like what I'm going to say. Some people might disagree with me. Some might agree. Who knows? But I'll say this. In my humble opinion, I think the mod and I think the people freaking out over the mod are both fucking stupid. There, I said it. Both sides of this argument are fucking retarded. First and foremost, the mod itself is fucking stupid. Who cares if the game has LGBT flags? Who gives a shit? I don't. Most people don't. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, who cares? You know, who gives a shit? It's just a flag. It's like a small part of the game. It's not like there's an entire plot. I admit I've never played Spider-Man. I have it, but I just haven't gone around to it yet. Okay? But I guarantee you there's probably not like, it's probably not a major aspect of the game. It's just some sections of New York City that have it. And that's fine. Have you ever been to New York City? You see that all over the place, okay? So I think modding the game just to not see the LGBT flag is just fucking stupid, okay? It's stupid, it's pointless, there's no reason for it. If you're gonna mod the game, at least download mods that actually fix aspects of the game, not like change tiny little things like that. And then you have the people complaining about it, and it's just, again, it's a mod. It's something that's optional. No one is forcing you to download it. No one is forcing you to add it to your game. You can play the game without ever using the mod in and of itself. But people flipped out. They were acting like this, I don't know. They were acting as if the mod like swapped it out with, I don't know, something like the Confederate or Nazi flag or whatever the fuck. And you had like Nexus Mods, they put out a statement about how they're all for inclusivity and all this kind of stuff. And then ModDB did the exact same thing. And it's like, again, it's a stupid mod. I agree it's a stupid mod, but freaking out about it and putting out statements and going on and on about it as if it's the most horrible thing to ever occur in gaming, I think is just a bit ridiculous. It's a bit overblown, okay? It was just one mod. It's not like there are 50,000 mods out there that basically do the exact same thing. And in reality, what you're going to do is basically just open yourself up for people to make more mods like this. You know what I'm saying? In fact, someone already kind of did. There's already a mod that was made to counter this that changes all the every flag, including the American flag, into LGBT flags. And it's like, again, it's just as stupid as the previous one. Again, who cares? It's a fucking flag. Move on with your life. Jesus Christ. I honestly wonder, do people like have no life? They have nothing better to talk about or do in their life that they have to create mods like this? Like, really, it's so fucking stupid. It's so retarded. People, I beg of you, do something else. Just actually play the fucking game. Stop bitching, stop making mods about it, and just play the fucking game. Jesus fucking Christ. It's times like these that I am reminded of the one line from Watchmen that I always agreed with. I am tired of this world, these people. I am tired of being caught in the tangle of their lives. Anyway, let's move on to another topic. Fuck me. Alright, and next up, we have another update on the Sega Genesis Mini 2 because Sega has released the full list of games. So, if you're looking forward to the Genesis Mini 2, well, here's what you're going to get. First and foremost, you're going to get Afterburner 2, Alien Soldier, Atomic Runner, Bonanza Brothers, Clay Fighter, Crusader of Senti, Desert Strike Return to the Gulf, Earthworm Jim 2, Elemental Master, Fatal Fury 2, Gain Ground, Golden Axe 2, Granada, Hellfire, Herzog Zwei, Lightning Force, Quest for Darkstar, Midnight Resistance, Outrun, Outrunners, Phantasy Star 2, Populous, Rainbow Islands Extra, Ranger X, Rise Star, Rolling Thunder 2, Shadow Dancer, The Secret of Shinobi, Shining Force 2, Shining in the Darkness, Sonic 3D Blast, Splatterhouse 2, Streets of Rage 3, Super Hang-On, Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers, The Ooze, The Revenge of Shinobi, ToeJam and Earl and Panic on Funkatron, Truxton, Vectorman 2, Viewpoint, Virtual Racing, and War Song, and those are all just the Genesis games. And then on the Sega CD side of things, you also have Echo the Dolphin CD, Echo the Dolphin, The Tides of Time, Final Fight CD, Mansion of Hidden Souls, Night Striker, Night Trap, Robo Aleste, Sewer Shark, Shining Force CD, Sylphied, Sonic the Hedgehog CD, The Ninja Warriors, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's bonus games. So you'll get new ports of Fantasy Zone, Space Harrier 2, Spatter, Super Locomotive, Versus Puyo Puyo Sun, Star Mobile, and Devi MP. Now, there's a lot to talk about here, and some interesting titles to note. One thing I've noticed I thought was really cool is the fact that they are adding Final Fight CD. Yes, that's some good stuff. Also, Robo Aleste is a great one. Night Trap and Sewer Shark, I'm like, they're well known because they're so bad. But at the same time, you could have filled that in with something like, oh, I don't know, Lunar 1 and 2. Heck, actually, I was shocked at the fact that they didn't add Snatcher to this. You would think that this would be like the perfect time to add Snatcher, but sadly, that is not going to happen. And you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, they might not ever re-release the game ever again. That's a damn shame. Now, another game that caught my attention was Devi NP. And apparently, it's a game that was originally developed by Takashi Iizuka, who is the current head of Sonic Team. Yep. Apparently, he started work on this game sometime in 1992 and 93, but unfortunately, it never got released, and he moved on to Sonic Team to work on Sonic 3. So, I'm glad to see that he was able to kind of get this game added to the Genesis Mini 2 and finally give it a release. Especially since it's been, 30 years since he first began work on it, so hey, that's actually pretty cool. Another one that caught my attention is Crusader of Senti. Now, that one is probably a little less known by some people, but it has become quite a collector's item in recent years. Basically, it's like a Zelda-type game for the Genesis, and it came out around the end of the console, sometime around 1995. And because of that, it sold poorly, and there's very few copies that are actually available. And so I'm glad to see it's become very expensive. The prices on that thing have jumped up in recent years. So I'm glad to see that they've actually added it. It's a pretty fun game. I played it like on an emulator some time ago. It's all right. It's actually a really good one. I'm also glad to see Herzog Zwei on there. It's basically an RTS for the Genesis. Oh, yeah. Pretty fun one. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff on there. Shining Force 2, fuck yeah. Shining in the Darkness is also pretty good. Like, when people think of the Shining series, they think of, like, just Shining Force. But, like, Shining in the Darkness is actually a really good dungeon-crawling RPG. It's a great one. Yeah, I'm just looking at the list, and I'm just like, yeah, there's some really good stuff in here. Super Hang On. Streets of Rage 3 is awesome. I don't care what people think about the Kangaroo. It's an awesome game. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to this thing. It's going to be awesome. Oh, you know what's another one that surprised me? Clay Fighter. There's one you don't see often, but I'm glad to see that they added it. Oh, and Desert Strike. There's a franchise we haven't heard from in a long time. When was the last time there was a Desert Strike game? I swear to God, like, the last one was, like, on the PlayStation 1. So, anyway, guys, I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
Be Spider-Man. Swing from buildings. Shoot webs. Bring down the bad guys. And for the first time ever, you have all his cool spider powers.
Jim, the garbage isn't going to take itself out.
You don't just play it, you live it.
Jim?
Spider-Man the game. Rated E for everyone.
From the creators of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
PlayStation.
All right, folks, and we're back. And first up on our last round of stories, we have some major news coming out of the Activision acquisition that is currently ongoing. And it seems that right now Microsoft is kind of in a battle in Brazil, which is what I like to call it, the battle in Brazil. You see, basically, here's what's happening. Right now, Microsoft is the whole acquisition, I should say, is right now being investigated by Brazil's Administrative Council for Economic Defense, which in Portuguese, the acronym is called CADE. Okay? And apparently, they've been asking Microsoft questions about this, but not just them, also others in the industry. We're talking major publishers such as Warner Brothers, Bandai Namco, I think Apple, Meta, and of course, Sony. And they had a lot of interesting stuff has actually come out of it. For example, we now finally know how many units the Xbox One sold. You see, back in 2016, Microsoft stopped reporting on Xbox One sales. And you know what? When you look at the final number, it's kind of it's understandable why. Because apparently the Xbox One only sold 58.5 million units. Oof, that is like more than that. That's about half of what the PS4 sold. That is just ouch. And so because of this, they've actually had to release those sales numbers, which is very interesting. It goes to show just how much damage that launch did. The launch and the reveal press conference that they did back in 2013. That's how much damage it did. Ouch. But what was also interesting is some of the mudslinging going on between Microsoft and Sony right now. So Sony basically went up to bat and basically argued that the Call of Duty franchise is so massively popular that no other developer could create a franchise to rival it, and that it's a gaming category in and of itself. Yes, that is what Sony is claiming here. Of course, Microsoft is outright refuting that. And on top of that, they're also accusing Sony of paying devs to keep games off of Game Pass. They said, and I quote, "Microsoft's ability to continue expanding Game Pass has been hampered by Sony's desire to inhibit such growth. Sony pays for blocking rights to prevent developers from adding content to Game Pass and other competing subscription services." Now, obviously, there's no evidence to this. This is just a claim that Microsoft's making. But it wouldn't surprise me, because Sony does kind of have a history of doing some pretty shady things, or supposedly that's what people claim. Probably the best example I could think of is Squaresoft. The fact that back in the old days, Sony forced them to sign an exclusivity deal that meant that none of their games could be released. They could not develop or release any games for competing platforms. So they could release their stuff on PC, but they couldn't release it like on a Nintendo system or Sega system. And because of that, when it came to Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube, they had to start a shell studio to develop it just to get around their exclusivity deal. So, like I said, there might be something there, but again, there's no evidence to actually suggest that what Microsoft is saying is actually true. Still, though, I have to admit, it actually is pretty funny watching the two slinging mud at each other. It always is. Whenever you have these major corporations that get into a spat and they just start flinging out all sorts of allegations and shit at each other, it's hilarious to watch. And keep in mind, this is only the Brazilian side of things. They still have to do a review for the FTC, and I think the SEC as well in the United States. And I think they've yet to actually be brought up to the European Commission. So we're not even done yet. So you guys better get your popcorn ready and just enjoy the shit show that will be this entire acquisition, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be an easy one. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. And next up, we have a couple of stories about video game movies, because of course, they just keep coming out with them lately. You know what it is? It's because Pokemon Detective Pikachu and the Sonic movies did so well that now Hollywood has turned its attention away from like comic books and now is looking at video games. So, and in this case, we have two other Sega franchises that it appears that will be getting a movie. First and foremost is Space Channel 5. Yep, and then the other is Comic Zone. Now, I'm a bit mixed on this because Space Channel 5, I'm not really sure how that's going to work. Space Channel 5 is more of a rhythm game. Doesn't really have much in terms of story. So I'm like, okay, how are they going to pull this off? The only way I could see them pulling it off is if they turn it into a musical. But I'm not entirely sure. But Comic Zone, I'm actually kind of excited for. Comic Zone was a great game. And so I'm glad to see Sega's taking a chance in actually allowing someone to make a movie out of it. But anyway, the other news, and it's one that's kind of annoys me a bit, is there's now a rumor claiming that that Gravity Rush will be getting a movie adaptation. Now, of course, keep in mind that this is just a rumor, but their deadline is claiming that PlayStation Productions and Scott Free Productions, which is Ridley Scott's production studio, have launched development on Gravity Rush. And it'll be directed by Ann Maestro and with a script by Emily Jerome. Now, I don't know who they are, but I'll say this. Please just be a rumor. Don't be true. Look, I love Gravity Rush. It's probably my favorite modern Sony IP. And it's one that I don't want Sony to fuck up. I want them to kind of leave it alone and not do anything with it. Because, you see, the creator of the series, Keiichiro Toyama, he left Sony like 2 years ago. And he's been working on his own game. He's also, by the way, the creator of Silent Hill and Siren. So, yeah, pretty awesome track record in my humble opinion. So obviously, he wouldn't have any say in this adaptation. And then on top of that, the fact that Sony already fucked him over when it came to Gravity Rush. You see, you ever wondered why the epilogue in Gravity Rush 2 felt like it was its own game? Yeah, that's because it basically would have been Gravity Rush 3, except the development team knew that they wouldn't be able to actually make Gravity Rush 3, so they decided to add it on to Gravity Rush 2 as an epilogue. Because they knew Sony would fuck them over. So, yeah, honestly, I would rather Sony just not even touch the IP. Leave it alone. You fucked it up already. You've destroyed one of, in my humble opinion, is one of Sony's best brand new IPs. And you fucked it over. You destroyed it. Okay? And by the way, if you haven't played any of the games, I highly recommend you go check them out. Unfortunately, in recent years, prices have kind of jumped up. The original game on Vita, I was surprised. I just checked on eBay. That thing is going for like $70, $80. It's completely ridiculous. It's not worth that much, in my humble opinion. Gravity Rush 2, you could get also a little cheaper. But again, it used to be that you could actually go and find it for like $20 because I think like by like 2018, 2019, they were trying to get rid of them as fast as humanly possible. So maybe that's it. I would also highly recommend getting Gravity Rush Remastered for PS4. You can get it digitally, and if you try to get it on PS4, physically, I should say, you're gonna get into some issues because it was in North America it was a Amazon exclusive, and so physical copies of Gravity Rush Remastered are hard to find. You can get the Japanese version, but the American version, much harder to find. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. Point is, go check out Gravity Rush, and let's move on to our next story. Okay, and our last story has to deal with a game developer named Mike Daly. Now, if you don't know who he is, he's one of the co-founders of DMA Design, which later became Rockstar North. He was one of the developers on the Lemmings series, and then later developed the original prototype for Grand Theft Auto. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Daly is one of the fathers of the GTA series. And he has a YouTube channel where he uploads a lot of videos of stuff that he's worked on in the past. Some of it is prototypes of older games and such, and some stuff that he's also been working on. And he had a lot of videos that he had done of prototype footage of the original GTA. Well, unfortunately, it seems like he's been forced to remove all of it. That's right. Apparently, all of his GTA-related videos were copyright striked by Rockstar Games. What the fuck? Not only is that are these videos incredibly important to the history of video games and GTA as a series. What you're seeing in a lot of those videos were the early stages of it, how GTA became what it is. So not only is it an invaluable piece of gaming history, it's also a great tool for young developers to learn from. And Rockstar just doesn't give a shit. Their entire idea is, oh no, that's our copyright, fuck you. We're going to just copyright claim it. What a shitty thing to do. Not only do they have no respect for the people who got them to where they are now, but they also have no respect for their own history. Okay? It really goes to show what type of assholes are running Rockstar Games at this point. And what's really gets me is that this basically opens up the floodgates for Rockstar to go after any channel that uploads prototype or beta footage from previous Rockstar games. Okay? I mean, I knew Rockstar had no respect for their past, especially after the GTA Trilogy collection, but this just proves it even further. They have no respect for their past, they have no respect for their former developers, they have no respect for their fans. As far as they're concerned, if you're not part of them, then you have no right to talk about them or upload any videos about them. It is just absolute shitty pettiness. And you know what? Rockstar, as far as I'm concerned, they can go get fucked, okay? I refuse to support them. I refuse to give them any more of my money. I'm officially boycotting them. Of course, that doesn't mean anything because obviously when GTA 6 comes out, people are just going to give them money anyway because it's GTA. But from me personally, I'm done with them. If this is how they're going to act, if this is how they're going to treat their past developers, then they can go to hell. Anyway, guys, I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
From Hollywood Pictures, the Mario Brothers are out to rescue a kidnapped princess who will take them out of this world into another dimension. Where are we? Get him! Are you alright? Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game. Rated PG. Starts Friday, May 28th.
Alright folks, and that's it for this week. I want to thank you all for listening. Remember, if you liked any of the music that I played on this week's episode, you can find the links in the description. And I'll see you next week. Remember to keep gaming.